Hello everybody, it's Corey. How are you? It's been a little while since I last made a video, around about 6 months. So I thought what better to do on this absolutely spectacular Wellington day than make a video and give people a little bit of an update as to where I'm at with stuff. Go the rain. So here we are. Video is probably not going to be too long, I would hope, because it's mostly going to be me talking, and we all know how exciting that is. I'll talk about my cancer stuff, and then move on to a bit of work stuff and other things that are going on, and hopefully what's going to happen moving forward. Also the type of videos I'm going to be doing, things like that. Now I appreciate that the cancer stuff can be a little bit triggering, for want of a better term, for a lot of people, and you probably don't necessarily, or you may not want to hear what I've gone through, and totally understand that. That's fine. So with that in mind, I'm going to post around about now. You'll see the point in this video probably down below. So if you want to scroll through to that timestamp, by then I would have stopped my little bit of rabbiting on about the cancer stuff. So if you don't really want to hear about it, it's a little bit close to home. Obviously most of us, many of us, have been touched by cancer in different ways, and I know some of you watching will have lost people that are near and dear. I'm not going to go into too much detail about anything specific, but I'll just tell you where I'm at. So if you don't want to hear it, head forward now, go to that point, and we'll pick up the stuff that's a little bit less cancery, for want of a better term. So my last video was posted in September. At that point I was undergoing immunotherapy. We've all thought I was responding reasonably well. That was cool. I was working, I worked through to the end of my contract in late October. Shout out to any of my colleagues and the people that were there generally. It was a really good place to work. Obviously pretty much working from home a lot of the time, because the building turned out to be a little bit munted, and because COVID. So I, with the therapy stuff and the cancer stuff, my immunotherapy was every 3 weeks, and before every session I would go into Wellington Hospital, have a catch up with the oncologist, talk about any side effects or any issues I might be having, additional medications or tweaks to whatever, and then I'd have the treatment, which is just a drip coming in of whatever flavoured giggle juice they were giving me. So I cruised in on that day, which would have been probably the second week of October, there or thereabouts, maybe the first week. Expecting good news. I was feeling really good. The previous scans had been positive. So I'd had a scan a week earlier, and expecting good stuff. And the oncologist kind of burst the bubble. Unfortunately, things weren't good. Things were in fact quite not good. The cancer had spread to another couple of locations, and the prognosis was that it was terminal. That was a bit of a blow. Obviously, I'm not sure you can get many bigger ones. So I stopped the oncologist short of giving me an indication as to how much time they thought I might have had left. I kind of didn't really see any benefit in knowing that. I don't want to put a specific time frame or window or whatever. All I really wanted to know from her was just some glimmer of hope that there's a chance I could still get through it, whatever that ultimately looks like. And her words, and I'm paraphrasing, was, there's always a chance. I said, well, hey, however small or minuscule it might be, then that's what I'm going to focus on. And I did, and I have, and I am. So from there, obviously the treatment changed. The immunotherapy wasn't working, so I was switched to chemotherapy as a palliative care option. So that would have made whatever time I had left more comfortable. In terms of side effects, up until then I'd been pretty lucky. I felt okay. My hair kind of got a bit thinner. A little bit of it fell out, but not all of it. But yeah, so there was that. A little bit of low energy, but not a huge amount. And yeah, I was still managing to work. Everything was reasonably okay, all things considered. So I was referred to the hospice. So I went into Tiamanga. Well, initially Tiamanga nurse and a doctor came here to our place and examined me and had a chat with Mel and I and talked through different options and some of the support stuff that was kind of available. Wouldn't go into too great a detail because at that point it still seemed quite a long way away. But it was just more a matter of plugging into their system so that if and when things progressed, we kind of knew who to talk to and where to go to get additional support that we may have needed or I may have needed at points in the future. So that was that. Bit of a tough time, obviously, telling people that your cancer's terminal. Probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest. I can't think of any harder things really. Things I've had to do that you don't really wish on anyone. But anyway, that aside. So looking forward, my work contract came to an end, which turned out to be pretty timely in hindsight. So the working finished late October. Early with chemotherapy, just before I get to the next point, one of the key differences is, as it was explained to me, being a layperson, simpleton, whatever, the immunotherapy specifically attacks cancer cells, so that's why, generally speaking, a lot of the side effects won't be too bad for the majority of people. Whereas with chemotherapy, it attacks pretty much everything. So the side effects can be a little bit more, or a lot more, prevalent, and to a larger degree than with the immunotherapy. So with that attacking your all the cells in your system, your immune system becomes quite weak, particularly in one out of the every 3 week cycle. And on top of that, obviously, we've got COVID floating around and all that sort of carry on. So the big thing for them, the big focus for them was to minimise, if not eliminate, the chance for me to pick up an infection. Not necessarily COVID, but anything. So fast forward a couple of weeks, and of course I picked up an infection. Happy days. My temperature spiked one day. I was really, really tired. Mel and I had actually been to an appointment in the hut, and basically took me what seemed like half an hour to walk half a block. We got into the appointment and I was puffing like a steam train for the first 10 minutes. It took me that long to get my breath back. Excuse me. Cough for effect. And yeah, later that evening my temperature started heading north, so we rang the hospital and they pretty much said come straight in, come into A&E, and that was that. So because obviously high risk with the chemotherapy, already having cancer, having one lung, the respiratory stuff. They didn't know what was going on. At that point, COVID was in Wellington. So they put me in an isolation room until they knew what they were dealing with. So whereas they have a ward for people who have a lot of the stuff that I had going on, before they put me in that ward and obviously exposed me to other people and exposed them to whatever I might have had, they had to be 100% certain as to what exactly it was I did have, so that they weren't risking anybody else. So I was in the isolation ward, which I can pretty clearly tell you is not a fun place to be. Hospital's not fun at the best of times, but being in an isolation ward, it's not cool. So if there's things you can do to reduce or eliminate the chance of you having to go there, take it from one who's been. It's worth doing, for the sake of, I don't know, wearing a mask or getting the odd jab or whatever. Yeah, it's not cool. It's also quite confronting. Obviously, all the nurses and doctors and everyone has full PPE, and your own wife can't even come and visit you or anything like that. So yeah, not a fun time. Bit of an eye-opener, I guess. So I was in the isolation ward for 3 nights. Obviously after the first night they knew I didn't have COVID, but they still didn't know what I did have. So until they clarified that, then I was stuck there. So they got to the bottom of that, and then it was a case of they put me into the main ward, and I was in there for another 3 or 4 nights, just pretty much while they built me back up, got my immune system back up to where it needed to be, before they set me free. So we got through that, came home, no worries. As it happened early in December, I got another infection. This one they jumped onto pretty quickly. I was only in there for 4 nights, which was better than 7. The first 3 nights again were in the isolation ward, but still. So touch wood, nothing since then. So I've been having chemo every 3rd week since I think probably late October, early November. Had the 2 hospital admissions, none more since, which is great. Felt pretty good in terms of side effects. I get a fair bit of fatigue. I get really bad face breakouts and forehead and crap like I'm a teenager, which is why you don't want to see me too up close. It wouldn't be a good picture anymore, much more so than at the best of times. And aside from that, I'm pretty okay. My hair's gone a bit curly. Mum will be pleased. Good on you, Mum. And yeah, that aside, things have been going pretty good. I actually had another follow-up scan last month, and very surprisingly, the cancer, actually no, had one in January, and it showed that the cancer had actually reduced, which was a massive surprise. Apparently that doesn't happen in a lot of cases where it's as advanced as what it was with me. So for some reason the chemo's doing something, and hey, we'll take that. The chemo, the dose that I've been on has been reduced a fair bit, quite a lot obviously, and making me vulnerable to those infections that are around, those bugs. Seem to have been managing a bit better obviously since that changed in the new year. I had another scan a few weeks ago, and it's stabilised, so it's not gone away or anything like that. It's not disappeared, but it hasn't grown since the previous scan, so that's a pretty good place to be. We'll take that for the meantime. Moving forward, nothing's really changed, so it's just a matter of each day is a day. I have started studying. Obviously, I'm not really in a position that I can work or commit to working. Whilst there's not a lot wrong with my brain, my energy levels are a bit up and down, and very difficult to predict. One of the things I find when I'm really tired is that I struggle to concentrate and focus on stuff, which is fine when you're watching TV or silly videos on YouTube or whatever, but when you're working, that's not fair. So in lieu of work, I've started studying my career development diploma again. I did a couple of papers, a couple of subjects 2 years ago, so I've started doing another couple. I've been doing that for about 5, I think this is the 5th week, and that's going okay, touch wood. So it's given me something else to focus on, but not without the added, I guess, load of work. You know, I can pretty much do stuff when I want to do it. It's a distance learning thing through Nelson Marlborough Institute of Technology, so that's cool. So the way I'm going, another year and a half, if that, I might even have a diploma. Who'd have thought? Everything else is pretty good. On good days, I mow the lawns, have a good bit of energy. Other days, not so much, but that's okay. The motorcycle thing kind of went by the wayside. With the chemotherapy, I've lost quite a bit of core strength, and because I'm not as active, obviously muscles, not that I had much in the muscle department anyway, they've kind of lost a lot of what strength, and I use that term very loosely, what strength I had previously. So I found the motorbike a little bit difficult to manage, especially being as heavy as it was. So that got sold late last year. I did also sell the Mighty Camry. One of my earlier videos talking with Grant about my lifetime of vehicle ownership, he made the comment that the Camry can't be my last car, and it isn't. After the Camry, I picked up a BMW M135i. I'd never had a genuinely quick car before, something that can get to the speed limit under 5 seconds. That was an awesome car, and yes, I did say it was. Well, it still is, although it's no longer in my ownership. I got rid of that because as much as it was an awesome car, 6-cylinder turbo, pottering around the mean streets of the Hutt Valley weren't really what it was designed for. Heading over the Wairarapa, it was great, but given my energy and focus, I wasn't really keen on driving longish distances, although that's starting to improve, which is good. So yeah, I sold the BMW and went Golf GTI shopping, and ended up buying a Mercedes A250. But I'll do videos on that and the Beamer later on. In the two-wheel department, I actually picked up a scooter. So I've got a little Vespa, which is much lighter, easier to manage, still get me out on the road. Happy days. Again, I'll probably do another vid on that at some point. Little review. So yeah, so that's where we're at. Happy days. looking forward hopefully to heading to see the Phoenix next month, which will be interesting. I mean, with the announcement of the relaxation of a lot of the restrictions and stuff around COVID in New Zealand, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I mean, on the one hand, it's great, and life's, for most of us, is is returning back to normal, in inverted commas. But of course, for me, that also, there's a lot of that risk there. So, I'll probably still be pretty careful and be keeping a relatively low profile, especially going places, now that, you could be standing next to someone who's not vaccinated or might have COVID, and for someone in my position, that's not really something I want to be doing. So we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. I mean, once the case numbers and stuff come down quite substantially, I think I'll be a lot more confident about getting out and about a bit more. But we'll see how we go. In the meantime, if you are out and about and you see people wearing masks, try not to judge them. They might be like me. I mean, if you saw me, you would know that I'm going through the stuff I'm going through. For better or worse, I still look pretty much the same. I've lost a little bit of weight, but not a whole lot. So yeah, you don't know what other people are going through or who they have at home that might be in a similar position, or elderly, or whatever. So don't be too hard on them. And who knows, they might just be keeping themselves safe from the deep state cameras that are watching out every single move. The mind boggles. So yeah, on that note, take care. I'll definitely lift my video taking game. That's the plan. And yeah, any questions, any comments, especially constructive ones, welcome. Good to see me. And in the meantime, don't go back. We'll be right away. See ya.